All right, welcome to part one. Bring up the first slide. What is overthinking? Overthinking is the process of continuously dwelling on analyzing thoughts. The focus here is on continuously dwelling. It's normal to have thoughts. We shouldn't be pushing them down or thinking that thinking is wrong, but is when we dwell on them, that's when the problems begin. So noticing when we are dwelling on thoughts and problems to an excessive degree, that's when it becomes an issue. It often involves replaying events in your mind, obsessing over details, or worrying about potential outcomes. We're all familiar with what this feels like. If you're late at night, laying in bed, thinking about something that happened during the day, even though it's already over, you're still thinking about it, and you can't stop thinking about what should I have done differently? What will I do if it happens again? And this is what robs us of sleep. It robs us of our peace. And we're going to talk a lot today about how we can come out of this so that we can really regain a much more potent and powerful way of living. Looking at the causes of overthinking, let's bring up the next slide. One of the primary causes is fear of the unknown. And this is really one of the central themes of overthinking, is that when we're in our head, we're afraid of the unknown. Being in your head is not our natural state. The mind is great for gathering information. It's great for executing once you have a plan, but it's terrible at deciding what's right for you. It's a tool we should use, but it's not something that knows us. It doesn't control us, and it should not be in the driver's seat. So recognizing that whenever we're afraid of the unknown, it means that we're in our head, because the mind, if we task it with navigating life, with understanding us, it doesn't like the unknown. It wants to know things. So it will shrink your horizon. It will come up with what could happen, what might happen, the what ifs, the shoulds, the coulds. And that's really its primary original purpose, is to keep us safe. But when it comes to navigating life, it starts to freak out because it's just looking for problems. That's just how it used to be evolutionary. But now we're in a different age where there is no imminent danger lurking around every corner. So we're still giving our mind the pole position. Then it's likely to come up with fears because it doesn't like the unknown. Now, the way to come out of that unknown, we'll talk about in a little bit in part 3, is to embrace the unknown. And that really is one of the key pieces to coming out of overthinking. The next thing is perfectionism, something I myself have struggled with or suffered from or am empowered with. You can always look at it from different ways. And we all want to be perfect. We all are conditioned and taught to not make mistakes. We're told making a mistake is the worst thing you can do. You're going to be a failure forever. If you make a mistake, it'll haunt you for the rest of your life. And this is simply not true. We learn by trying things out. We learn to walk by falling down. We explore things and make mistakes in order to move forward. Now, unfortunately, most environments don't allow us to make mistakes. They don't encourage us to learn and grow this way, because that's what making a mistake really is. It's you're learning and you're growing. So we should remove the stigma and just think of it as growth. Unfortunately, we are raised to abhor making mistakes, and we need to be perfect. So we're always in our mind about what can we do better, what should we have done, what could we do when it happens again. And so the sense of perfectionism, it just won't leave us alone. It's always nagging at us. We need to be better. So that's another one of these top reasons of why we keep getting pulled into our head, is because we want to be perfect. And the reasons are, often very benign, and our parents, our environment, our peers, our teachers are supporting us to improve and get better. But there's a message that often comes through that we need to be perfect, and we're not perfect. We shouldn't be perfect. There would be no life if we were just perfect to begin with. We're here to experience a journey, our own growth, our own real self-realization, really discover who we are. And for that, we need to uncover the unconsciousness within us, all the things that we are not aware of. And we do that by making mistakes, by learning, by failing. There are some industries like the startup scene that embrace failure. Failing fast, failing forward, failing often is the motto there. But in most environments, we're not allowed to fail. So finding space for yourself to really reflect and not be hard on yourself. You have not just work, but there's a bigger part of your life where it's your relationship with yourself. And if you can establish a healthy balance there with, okay, what does this situation tell me about me? Because every situation is always a reflection of who you are. You're seeing it through your lens, your filters, your background, and no two people have the same life. You've lived your own life, so you're experiencing your world. You're always only experiencing yourself. So when something happens, think of it as a mirror. Life is showing you something about yourself. And if you don't like it, that's you as well. It's an opportunity to not get down on yourself, but to actually look within and see what's there, see where the light of your awareness can create change. So then, of course, lack of confidence is another indicator that will lead you to overthink. You're always looking around, how can I prove myself? How can I please other people? How can I show, my value? And that comes through when somebody with a negative attitude enters the room, you can feel that energy. Somebody who is really needy, they come to you, you can feel how that's repulsive. It pushes you away. Similarly, with a lack of confidence, it comes through to the people in your environment. And then you find yourself trying to remedy the situation, again, with the mind, which is the source of the issue, is that it wants to be perfect. It wants to predict the future, and the future cannot be predicted, nor would you want to be able to predict it. The task is always to show up and respond to what is, and not to bring in baggage from the past or expectations from the future. So this lack of confidence is not you. You are not a problem. None of us are. It's simply a cause that brings us into our head and flows from being in our head. And so the solution is not to think your way through it or try to fix yourself or figure yourself out, but rather to come out of the head altogether. And we'll be doing some practical exercises to that in the subsequent sections. Next piece is high expectations. It's something that we've just been imprinted with. It's a little bit related to perfectionism, but it's also just something that we want to live the best possible life. We want to think highly of ourselves. We want to be respected by the people around us. So these things are just natural. It's okay. We don't have to think of them as problems. We just have to be able to recognize and notice when it's happening. The noticing is a key. It keeps you on the side of your awareness. If you identify with any of these things, if you're identified with the fear, identified with the perfectionism and the lack of confidence, if you really believe those thoughts that you're having about yourself and the world, then you run into trouble, because that's when you go down the rabbit hole. There's some great research about what Western psychology calls rumination, which is basically thinking about something that has no relevance to the task at hand. And the research shows that we spend 50 to 2/3 of our day, 50% to 2/3 of our day lost in thought. That's a big chunk of your life that you're not really here. We put so much effort into living a long, prosperous life, doing good, being of service, all these things, but very few people talk about how we're spending most of the day lost in thought. And when you're lost in thought, that's when accidents happen, because we're absent-minded, we're not paying attention. But that's also when we make bad decisions. When we're lost in thought, we're essentially reacting to an idea that hasn't happened, some future moment that hasn't come, and we're just attaching ourselves to it and allowing this reactivity. It could be unpleasant or pleasant, makes no difference. But this reaction to our thoughts pulls us into the thoughts, makes us identify with the thoughts. And then we get lost in thought. And then before you know it, 10, 20 minutes go by and you finally notice that you snap out of it. It's often because your thoughts become so ridiculous that you come back to the present moment and it feels like you're emerging from this fog. You just don't even know where you were. Your body was here, but your mind was not here. You were not present, and you were missing out on life. Meaning there could have been the opportunity of a lifetime for business and career. There could have been the love of a life that you might meet somebody, or even just a beautiful sunset, whatever it is. It was right there in front of you, but you missed it because you were lost in thought. And so this reactivity is key to recognize that our feelings Our thoughts and feelings come and go. They're natural. This is not to be diminished. Nothing about mindfulness and developing greater awareness about overthinking is to get rid of thoughts, but it's to recognize thoughts. Thoughts and feelings come and go. All thoughts are related to feelings. For the purpose of the session, we'll call it just feelings. And as these thoughts and feelings arise, they would normally arise in past, but we react to it, right? That's our reactivity to something that has just arisen, a thought that came by or a feeling that arose inside of you. But instead of allowing it to come and go, we react to it. And so instead of feeling the flow, the coming and going, we experience this big reaction. And to keep it succinct, this big reaction is essentially the story of me. This is your personal narrative. This is what we're always reacting to. I should be here at this particular stage of my life. I always say there's no such thing as an innocent birthday party, because this whole download comes along. Where does it come from? It's conditioning, it's media, it's society. But where we should be, we compare ourselves to this story of me, of what we've been imprinted with, of where we think we should be in life, what kind of income we should have, our bank account, what kind of lifestyle, partners, whatever it may be that's in there in that personal narrative. That's what we react to when we see something that's different. And it's okay. We're all raised to make these plans, 1 year, 5 year, 10-year plan. We're conditioned to plan out our whole life, figure out our life ahead of living it, essentially, is what we're being told. Yet if you ask yourself, has your life until now happened according to plan? I have never encountered anyone whose life has happened according to plan. And then secondly, if I asked you, can you predict the future? I've also never encountered anyone who says they can predict the future. So yet we're conditioned, we're raised to live that way. And we continue to pretend that we can plan out and predict our life ahead of living it. So that is where a lot of this chatter, this mental noise lives. And this is summarized as the story of me. And this is just a constant form of reactivity that pulls us into our head, into the overthinking. We'll be thinking about all the little details that exist in there. Who you are, your job, your title, how you look, your friends, your status, what you expect, your hopes, your wishes, your fears. All of this stuff lives in this story of me. And it fuels our tendency to overthink every situation, that we need to prove ourselves, that we need to not make a mistake, that we need to really show the world and conquer, get our piece of the pie. There's also lack and fear and scarcity in there. So it's very complicated and complex in there when it could be so simple. The overthinking, as we all know, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this, is that there's a complexity there that doesn't need to be. We spend probably, if you look at this anecdotally, 95% of our energy goes into this realm, right? And if we came out of overthinking and just allowed our thoughts and feelings to come and go, and then keep a balanced mind in the process, and then make good decisions from the insights that come with this coming and going, then we're actually spending energy on what is real, which is our feelings and our thoughts about what is happening right now. We have a choice to actually engage with certain thoughts and not to engage with others. So that is one of the keys to come out of overthinking, is to develop the awareness of your thoughts as well as your feelings. Once you have awareness of, okay, here comes a thought, and we can all do this. If you just reflect, you can notice, oh, there's a thought. So it's just practicing that and doing it consistently so that you always are on the side of awareness. So you can recognize, okay, there's a thought. It's a beneficial thought. This is an inspiring thought. This is something that is equal or elevating or uplifts me, and something I want to engage with. And then another thought might be, no, this is a detrimental thought. It's not a healthy thought. It's a blind pattern thought, whatever it may be. And that one you let go. So once you have that choice of which thoughts to engage with, then you're not just overthinking, but you're actually free. You're free to choose which thoughts to engage with. Overthinking happens when you're so glued, when you react to every thought that comes along and you let yourself get pulled into it. You identify with it, and that's how you get lost in thought. And this is how we spend up to 2/3 of our life just thinking about things that have no relevance. Even when you super plan out and anticipate any permutation that you might think might happen at some meeting tomorrow or some presentation, whatever it might be, some talk you're about to have, it always winds up being different. Even if you could predict all the players, the energy of the moment is different. You cannot anticipate what the future feels like now. You can prepare, but then you need to let go and show up and see what's there and work with what's there. That is what simplifies the whole situation. If you walk into a situation, now you're playing a script and you're reacting from the script. No, the situation should be different. Now you're in the defensive. Now you really get into your head. That's where panic, anxiety, the fear, all of that starts to set in. And overcoming overthinking is really finding back to your natural state of know your things. This is not about blindly floating aimlessly through life. You got to know your skill set. Of course, that's what you're hired for. That's who you are. You know yourself, but then you show up and respond to what's actually there and not project with your thoughts something into the situation that isn't there, right? You're not comparing it to what you think should be there. So that's a big moment when you realize that you don't have to believe your thoughts. If you can be aware of your thoughts, you're not your thoughts. If you can be aware of your feelings, you're not your feelings. So what are you? You're the awareness of those things. That is your true essence. That is your true identity, if you want to call it that. You're not your job. You're not your income, the stuff you own. You're not your name, your body. You're not your story of me. As much as we believe it when we're sucked into it, it's just a cluster of thoughts. And yes, the nervous system is wired to uphold and maintain this truth structure, as I call it, this control grid that we establish around ourselves to try and avoid all the fears and the control and the anxiety and the lack that the mind automatically looks for problems, it looks for danger. So we create this control field around us, and that's not a healthy way to live because life can't be controlled. Life is always evolving, always changing. It will never stand still. So by trying to hang on to it, we create even more suffering for ourselves. It's already hard enough to live with this constant comparison of what's happening when you think what should be happening based on the story, the personal narrative of me. But then the anxiety, the fear that we allow into the picture because we're in our head and we're allowing ourselves to focus because we don't have the ability to really discern which thoughts to engage with and not. That then introduces just all the fear, anxiety, and the dread of waking up the next day and going back into life. So coming out of our head isn't just quieting the mind, isn't just creating calm. It's reconnecting to inspiration, reconnecting to the aliveness of life, reconnecting to the flow of being part of a greater current, not just always feeling like it's me against a big scary world. There is a greater intelligence behind all of this, that if we tap into that, if we connect into that, if we recognize that we just have to get out of our own way, specifically, mostly, primarily with our thoughts, then that flow takes over and it guides us in ways that are so miraculous that we couldn't even imagine our best life. I always say early on in our journey, we are upset that life is getting away in what we want to live, the life we imagine. But ultimately, in the end, we recognize we can't imagine our best life. The mind is just too limited for that. It has its purposes. It's an incredible tool for certain things, but we need to just use it for the things it's designed for and not for the things it's not. The past and future, that's also another aspect is past and future. So the sense of time, again, that's something that only exists in our heads. Our body is always here. We're only experiencing what we can, which is happening right now. Our senses, you can't smell something from yesterday. You can't see something from tomorrow. You can't feel something that doesn't exist. Ultimately, our senses are what keep us very present, very grounded. And it's the mind where time exists as a concept. That's where we stress, that's where we project, that's where we try to relive the past. What could we have done better? What would we do again if it happened again? So all of that noise, you can see it's just noisy in that place. There's this mind chatter. It only exists when we're in our head. And when we come out of it, it's not a question of figuring it out with more thinking. It's a question of coming out of it, the mind altogether. Then all of that subsides naturally, organically. It's not our natural state to be in our head constantly and thinking. That's not what we're here for, and that's not healthy for us. And that's why you're watching this, is because you've realized you need to come out of this overthinking. It's not healthy. We don't make good decisions. We're stressed, we're fearful and anxious, and we're not really present. We're not here with life as it's happening. We're not part of the unfolding. So you've recognized that. That's already huge, because there's an awareness there that overthinking has a negative effect on you. Now it's simply a question of what tools can I use to abate that? What practices can I establish to get myself into healthier patterns to come out of this incessant stream of thinking? Lastly, all of this is because of our social conditioning. A lot of our issues, if not most of our issues, aren't even our own. Carl Jung said, most of our problems are the unlived life of our parents, things they didn't resolve, things that are stuck in them. It just got imprinted on us. And they got it from their parents and their environment and so forth. And so by the time it's come to you now, there's something in you that has said the buck stops here. You're no longer going to repeat blind patterns, this ongoing reactivity of just repeating what you already know, being scared and fearful and letting those elements dictate how you live your life. Something about you has said, I need to make a change. I'm going to say stop, and I'm going to make a difference for myself and those around us, because everyone benefits when we heal ourselves. We become a healing force for the world. So that's it for part 1. I hope you enjoyed this. Maybe take a break and get something to drink, and I look forward to welcoming you back to part 2.